Today I'm going to not teach you really anything. I'm just going to take you along for the ride of installing a Fat Fox TFI module relocation kit. And I'm just winging it because the customer bought this kit. There's several different kits available for these, and they are intended to move the ignition module from the distributor to another location in the engine bay, under the vehicle, in a wheel well, something like that. And I've seen a couple videos online, and I feel like they're very not detailed, and it may be for a reason. Maybe they don't want liability, but I mean, yeah, you could cause problems to the ignition system, but as long as you're finding the right wires and plugging everything in, I think it's pretty simple. What I think anyway, but I find wiring to be simple. It's not as complicated as some people make it out to be. I have installed, let's see if I can show you. So there's the accessory drive bracket down here that mounts the alternator. Well, there's a hole right underneath of it, and I don't know exactly what it was originally intended for, but it gave me a good spot to mount that module down there. And the wiring for that then goes to the distributor comes up behind the accessory drive and to the distributor, and then you can see the connector there. I have the wiring. It will run up underneath the intake there and into the main harness and connect. So the harness comes, or the module with the kit and everything, and the heat sink there comes with pre-wiring on the connector. So this green, red, blue, and black right here are already pre-wired. That green is ground for the interference. Basically, it's a ground for the any interference that could get to the distributor or the ignition wires. And then I have to wire in these other wires here. I need to figure out what's going on, but I will kind of show you other connections that I make that I'm figuring out. I'm using wiring diagrams to make sure I tap into the correct things. There's two wires that it did not come with that I then took from the factory connector here, and I put those pins in. That way I can wire this distributor or this ignition system correctly and it runs properly. There may be another way around it. Somebody may know something quick, but I'm just trying to keep all the connections correct, but mount our module in a good spot to where it gets a lot of airflow. Well, right there, it's directly across from the fan. It's going to get great airflow and stay cool even on the hottest days. So let me do a little more wiring and I'll take you guys along and show you what I did. Okay, so I'm a horrible YouTuber and I didn't record much of what I did because the more I thought about it, it's not that complicated. People make this more complicated. The one thing I'll add in my kit, and I'll try to show the kit. I know some of you guys aren't interested in this, but I'm just showing what I'm doing every day. The stuff that I run into. Being a mechanic, working on about anything my customers bring me, I have to make sense out of stuff and execute the goal that you're trying to do and do it sensibly and clean. That way it's no issues with anything. Everything looks like it's supposed to be there. So our TFI module used to mount right here on the side of the distributor. It is now mounted down here. See if I can get a flashlight. You can see it mounted down there. You can see the connector on it. Underneath, I need to connect one of those pins up, are the 3 pins that actually go into this distributor here. And like I said, normally that module is mounted on there. So now we have jumper wires that run from the module, 3 wires, up to the distributor. I've also added a ground wire in here that comes down. It grounds to the distributor, runs through the harness, and grounds right here. Got that eyelet right there. And then I took another eyelet and connected to the harness that powers up the module and all the wires in it. There is a interference grounding wire in that harness that I then connected to, soldered to, right here at the beginning. I've got it taped up so you can't see. Down here by my thumb, I don't know if you can see. Maybe see better. I've got it soldered there so it taps into the grounding shield wire, but then I continued another wire I soldered with it all the way up, and it connects to the grounding shield in the original one. That way, in my head, we're grounding, and any interference will be distributed to the grounding system and won't get into the distributor system, the ignition system, and cause an issue. And all I did here, so we ran 3 wires from the distributor down to the module. That allowed us to mount the module away from the distributor. Then the wires for the distributor, it came with some of them. I pulled it out from underneath the intake here and went up here, tapped in. I extended some of the wires because they didn't come with all of them, and I basically just continued the harness up here. Don't overthink this. All you're doing is mounting that module in a different spot. You're not doing any magic with wiring. All you're doing is extending the wires to get this module away from basically the source of the heat, which is right in the middle of the engine. You're putting it in a spot where it can cool off, and with that heat sink, stay cool. So I'm going to connect that last plug in, start the car, make sure everything's good, and I'll update you, see what I get. Okay, so it's been a little bit since I updated. Last time I updated you guys, I had just got all the wiring done on that Fat Fox, and I went to start the car and it'd crank and wouldn't start, and I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, all the wiring should be right. So I checked back over all my wiring that I did, and the only thing I really changed other than the wiring that I have no control over is the module. And it had this actual Fat Fox, or the distributor originally had one on there different, and this came in the kit, so I'm like, oh, I'll put this one on. This is Fat Fox, it's probably better. Wouldn't even start, wouldn't even try to start. Put this other one that was on the distributor down on the heat sink, wired it in properly, and it tried to start. But then another issue that I was having with this car is you'd go to start it and it'd click, 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 and then finally start. And so I was like, oh, is it a battery acting up? So I charged battery. It was still doing it. So I was on the edge of a starter solenoid or a starter. And so then all of a sudden, I'm trying it again, trying to start it, and all the lights go out on the dash. You can turn the key on, nothing happens. I'm like, what is going on here? And I think the battery just went bad. I checked voltage, it's down to like 1 volt. I'm like, it was just good. The battery tester, I've got one of these battery testers that sit and monitor. Like right now, I've got it charging on a 2 amp, and I actually test it. It's showing it's at 65%, but it's probably more than that. It was starting fine. But what actually happened was I pulled the battery cables off, tested voltage. Well, now my battery's showing 10 volts. What would be drawing that much? Well, I'm thinking whenever I then put the positive cable back in the battery, it sparked real bad. Okay, so is my starter solenoid on the fire, or on the fender here, right down here, still basically, is it still connected internally, cause an issue? And I checked resistance across, and it is. But I'm suspecting that the starter is drawing enough, then caused the solenoid to fatigue, and that's probably what the starting issue is. So I'm going to put a new starter and solenoid on, and then we'll recheck. Then I have to do base timing again. If I remember correctly, it's 10 or 12 degrees before top dead center. I just had that on earlier from testing spark. Once I get that done, we'll see if this thing has the issue that the main thing I'm going after, and the reason I got frustrated chasing things and needed kind of a break and wanted to get something else done, was why I installed this Fat Fox modular relocation. And I'm hoping that maybe doing this, or just taking my time and not rushing, you know, maybe the starter solenoid the whole time was internally bad and was causing an issue, and would draw, you know, cause the issue that I'm chasing, which is you'll start this thing up, runs fine, sometimes dies, you sometimes restart it, but once you get it running, you will notice the kind of hiccups as it's running. It's just kind of like I don't know how to explain it, like how would I explain, it's almost like the engine pauses for a second, almost tries to shut off and come back on. And when it does that, on the data logging, there's a, I think I told you this maybe in another video, maybe the live stream it was, that the timer in the data logger showing how long the vehicle's been running, it maxes out, I think, like 255 seconds. It'll reset. And so for some reason the computer is losing voltage. And is it maybe that starter solenoid? I don't know. So I don't know. We'll get that stuff installed and see where we get. My luck, it's still got the same issue. Okay, update on the Mustang, McLaren, whatever it is. It's a weird thing. We got a mess here. So it started cranking slow on me again after I put a new starter in, and I thought that was a lot. I'm thinking it can't be hydro lock because I don't have fuel. It's not, nothing's changed. Before it would fire up fine. Well, I don't know if you guys can see there the chunks of junk. Might be a better view. This lower end rods or mains are not in good shape, and this oil, it's hard to see, but it is just glittery. Man, that explains the customer was having an issue where originally what it started doing was they'd take it for a drive and it would shut off or not restart for him for a while, and once it cooled down a little bit, fired right back up. He was figuring it was the ignition module. They're known for doing that, just like a coil can do the same thing. So what it started doing to me was it would, what I think then is those glitches that the engine would kind of reset. I think that was the engine itself. There was so much resistance that it would slow itself down and then pick back up. And wow, that, I feel so bad for them. I feel so bad. It sucks. And he just got off the phone with him. He just got in a car accident. So that I didn't even want to give him the news when I called him, and he said he was in a car accident, and I was just calling to update him on the Mustang, and I said, no, I'll talk to you later. And he wanted to know. He was hoping I had good news, but I didn't. And that was a tough phone call, but you just have to do it sometimes. Life can be that way. So anyway, I'm going to shove this thing outside and get started on some other projects. I've got that tow truck I need to get in and fire it up. So that would be the next thing. This will probably close out the video for today. Did not go the way we wanted it to. I was hoping that ignition would ignition relocation, me messing with that and messing with this car would show something wiring, not base engine. So I'll get this thing pushed outside, restart. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm gonna hope to try to start uploading every other day, just short filmed like this, videos, just to kind of show you guys what I run into, update you, and then it'll motivate me to do a little more for myself as well, because I tend to focus so much time on customers' vehicles that I don't get to do my own projects, and I think you guys enjoy my own projects a little better. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.